Along a rural highway, a transport truck experiences a serious braking failure while approaching a solid overhead clearance beam, leaving the driver moments to react. When heavy vehicles lose braking performance, their significant weight and momentum make them extremely difficult to control safely. On a fresh paving site, a man walks across newly laid asphalt as a large road roller approaches from behind, creating a dangerous workplace situation. Heavy compacting equipment is designed to apply significant weight for paving operations and requires ample distance to stop safely. Large steel rollers often have restricted visibility, making nearby pedestrians difficult to detect. When workers and heavy machinery share the same operating area, the risk of a serious incident increases significantly. Establish physical barriers separating walkways from machinery zones. At a commercial distribution center, a man pushes dense cargo onto a mechanical freight lift before the platform unexpectedly begins moving downward inside the shaft. Freight lifts rely on engineered support systems, brakes, and controls to safely move heavy materials between levels. If a mechanical fault occurs, unexpected platform movement can create serious hazards for workers nearby. Personnel should only remain on or near a freight lift while it is being loaded or operated when the equipment is specifically designed and approved for that purpose. Warning signs such as unusual noises, vibrations, or irregular movement should be reported immediately. On an active industrial driveway, a forklift operator moves forward as the extended forks enter the path of a passing passenger car. Operating forklifts near shared traffic routes requires constant awareness and careful separation from public vehicles. The extended forks project well beyond the machine's main body, making safe clearance more difficult to judge during movement. When operators focus on steering or maneuvering, approaching vehicles may enter the travel path before either driver can respond effectively. Because forklifts are heavy industrial machines, they require additional distance and time to stop safely. Keeping forks lowered during travel and maintaining designated traffic routes greatly reduces the likelihood of vehicle contact and improves safety for everyone using the work area. Inside a busy supply yard, an operator uses a forklift and a wire cable to pull heavy steel beams when an angled load suddenly causes the machine to shift. Pulling heavy materials with a side-angled cable places uneven forces on a forklift and can reduce its overall stability. When the pulling direction is not aligned with the machine, lateral forces act on the mast rather than being evenly distributed across the chassis and counterweight. This side loading can exceed the forklift's stable operating limits. Using approved towing methods and keeping loads aligned with the forklift's direction of travel significantly reduces stability risks. Keep all towing cables properly aligned and use equipment that is designed and rated for the task. Across an open staging lot, a driver steps away from a parked machine before the unattended equipment unexpectedly begins rolling backward. Leaving heavy equipment without fully engaging the parking brake can allow unintended movement, especially on even slight slopes. Because of their weight and momentum, large machines become difficult to stop once they begin rolling. Attempting to slow or stop moving equipment by hand can place a person in a highly hazardous position with very limited control over the outcome. Proper parking practices, including setting the parking brake and verifying the equipment is secure before exiting the cab, greatly reduce the risk of unintended vehicle movement. Operators should also consider ground conditions and ensure the machine is properly secured before leaving it unattended. On a public roadside, a mechanic works beneath a loaded three-wheel transport vehicle when the unsecured vehicle begins moving unexpectedly. Working beneath heavy vehicles requires reliable stabilization before any inspection or repair begins. If parking systems or wheel restraints are not properly secured, even a slight movement can allow the vehicle to roll unexpectedly. Because loaded transport vehicles are extremely heavy, unintended movement creates a highly hazardous situation for anyone working underneath the chassis. Always engage the parking brake, install wheel chocks, and support vehicles with approved lifting stands before working underneath them. Verify that the vehicle is fully stabilized before beginning any maintenance task, and check the supporting equipment throughout the repair. Inside a commercial kitchen, a worker steps onto a large liquid spill near a deep fryer, creating an immediate slip hazard. Liquid spills on smooth kitchen floors can greatly reduce traction and make walking surfaces unexpectedly slippery. When grease, water, or other fluids remain unattended, even routine movement can become hazardous. Workers may lose stable footing with little warning, especially while carrying equipment or moving quickly through busy work areas. Prompt spill response, visible warning signs, and proper housekeeping practices help reduce slip hazards. On an elevated concrete loading bay, a driver steers forward until the machine reaches the unprotected edge. Operating heavy equipment near elevated loading platforms requires constant awareness of edge boundaries and safe stopping distances. If a machine moves beyond an unprotected platform edge, its stability can be lost as the wheels no longer have adequate surface support. Once the center of gravity shifts beyond the platform, regaining control becomes extremely difficult. Operators should approach loading bays slowly, maintain safe clearance from open edges, and remain alert to changing site conditions throughout every movement. Paint bright warning lines along all open platform borders and use suitable barriers where the work environment requires additional protection. Inside a busy manufacturing plant, an operator hoists loose metal racks before the top frame falls towards the work area in front. Stacking unlinked frames creates an unstable tower. When a heavy machine tilts an unsecured load, the angle can quickly affect its balance and cause the upper structure to shift from its original position. Once the structure begins moving, the heavy frame can come down rapidly, posing a serious risk to anyone standing nearby. Keeping materials stable and controlling the area around lifting operations gives workers more room to respond safely. Lock all stacked containers tightly before any movement. Step completely away from any active lifted loads. At an outdoor repair yard, a worker stands beside a large truck wheel during inflation before the tire suddenly fails. Inflating large industrial tires requires strict safety procedures because compressed air stores significant energy within the tire assembly. If the tire or wheel has hidden damage, structural failure can occur without obvious warning. The rapid release of pressure may cause the tire or wheel components to move unexpectedly, creating a hazardous area around the inflation point. Using approved safety cages, inspecting tire assemblies before inflation, and maintaining a safe distance greatly reduce the likelihood of incidents during servicing. Inflate large tires only inside approved safety cages. Deep inside a narrow excavation trench, a worker guides a suspended pipe before the surrounding soil unexpectedly gives way, creating a serious worksite hazard. Working in deep excavations requires proper protective systems because unsupported soil can become unstable without obvious warning. Ground conditions, nearby equipment, moisture, and vibration may all reduce the stability of trench walls during construction activities. If the sides of an excavation fail, soil can quickly enter the work area and create an extremely hazardous environment for anyone inside. Careful planning and regular assessment of the excavation can help workers recognize changing conditions before they become more serious. Trench boxes, shoring systems, and safe setback distances for heavy equipment significantly reduce these risks. At a sunlit outdoor construction site, a man cuts a metal grate before the heavy spinning tool suddenly kicks backward. Operating a rotating cutting equipment without proper control can create serious mechanical hazards. When a cutting blade catches or binds inside solid material, the tool may suddenly move in an unexpected direction. This reaction can make the equipment difficult to control, especially when the material is not firmly secured. Loose workpieces can shift during cutting, increasing the likelihood of sudden tool movement. Operators should use appropriate protective equipment and follow the manufacturer's instructions whenever using abrasive or powered cutting tools. Beside a parked flatbed truck, an active forklift hoists heavy cargo before the unbalanced load suddenly shifts from the steel forks toward a nearby worker. Lifting bulky materials without secure bindings can create an unstable load during forklift operations. When heavy cargo shifts forward or sideways, maintaining control becomes much more difficult. Smooth surfaces, uneven weight distribution, and sudden movement can increase the risk of materials leaving the forks unexpectedly. Proper preparation before lifting gives the operator a better chance of keeping the load stable throughout the movement. Secure cargo, balance loads properly, and keep clear exclusion zones around operating forklifts. Follow load limits and approved handling procedures when moving elevated loads. At a transport entrance, a worker swings a wide gate closed before an exiting truck unexpectedly approaches the same area, creating a serious safety hazard. Moving a rigid gate near active vehicle traffic can create dangerous pinch and clearance hazards. Large trucks require substantial space because their rear sections may shift outward while turning or exiting. When a gate and a moving vehicle occupy the same area, the available clearance can change quickly and become difficult to judge. Workers should wait until vehicles have completely cleared the entrance before operating gates. Maintain clear visual contact during every exit and follow site safety procedures to coordinate vehicle and gate movements safely. Beside a transport truck, a worker balances atop stacked boxes to unload freight before the unstable packaging shifts beneath his feet. Using stacked cardboard as a climbing surface creates an unstable foundation. Lightweight packaging is not designed to support a person's weight or provide reliable footing during unloading. When cargo is stacked unevenly, shifting weight can cause individual boxes to move or collapse unexpectedly. Workers should avoid climbing on boxes or cargo and instead use equipment specifically designed for reaching elevated areas safely and efficiently. Outside an active warehouse, a worker grabs the raised rear section of a tipping machine before the heavy equipment suddenly shifts downward. Using a person to stabilize shifting machinery is extremely dangerous because human strength cannot safely control heavy mechanical loads. When equipment becomes unbalanced during lifting, its weight can shift unexpectedly and make the machine difficult to control. Workers positioned close to unstable equipment may have limited time to move away safely if the machinery changes position. Proper mechanical support and controlled work areas are much safer ways to manage equipment during lifting or tilting operations. Operators should verify equipment stability before lifting and ensure that everyone remains at a safe distance whenever machinery is raised or tilted during workplace operations. Inside a storage facility, a man guides an overhead crane, lifting a slab before stacked cargo unexpectedly shifts downward. Stacked cargo can become unstable when support is removed during lifting operations. If materials are not secured, their balance may change as nearby loads move. Heavy objects can shift quickly when their arrangement is disturbed, creating a hazard for anyone nearby. Workers should remain outside designated exclusion zones whenever overhead lifting is underway. Securing freight with approved restraints, maintaining stable stacking arrangements, and clearing transport beds before lifting can reduce these risks. Secure freight with approved braces, clear transport beds before elevated lifts, and ensure everyone involved understands where they should stand during the lifting operation. At an outdoor auto shop, a worker leans to inspect a vehicle bumper before the raised truck cabin unexpectedly shifts downward. Working beneath raised vehicle sections requires reliable mechanical support and careful positioning. If lifting equipment or locking mechanisms are not properly secured, elevated sections can shift unexpectedly during inspection or repairs. Workers positioned beneath unsupported vehicle components may have very little opportunity to respond if the equipment moves. Workers should establish clear exclusion zones around elevated equipment and avoid relying solely on hydraulic systems to support raised vehicle components. Proper preparation and equipment checks are essential for maintaining a safe repair environment. Use approved support stands beneath all raised sections before working underneath them. At an active loading area, a worker handles an unidentified package before noticing an unexpected reaction from the container. Handling unfamiliar cargo requires caution because its contents, condition, and handling requirements may not be immediately apparent. Dropping, striking, or unnecessarily moving an unidentified package can damage the container or create unexpected hazards for nearby workers. Personnel should avoid opening or unnecessarily handling unfamiliar packages and should keep the surrounding area clear while trained personnel or appropriate supervisors assess the situation. Workers should treat unidentified packages with caution and follow established workplace procedures when their contents or condition are uncertain. Avoid unnecessary handling and keep non-essential personnel away until the situation has been properly assessed by the appropriate personnel. On a city sidewalk, a person pushes a tall metal scaffold before the elevated structure becomes unstable and shifts unexpectedly toward the pavement. Moving an occupied elevated platform can create serious stability risks. When scaffold wheels encounter uneven surfaces or small obstacles, the base can stop or shift suddenly while the upper structure continues moving. This can alter the scaffold's balance and make the tall frame difficult to control. Workers should also inspect the route beforehand, remove obstacles, and ensure the scaffold is positioned on a suitable surface before use. Lock casters firmly before climbing and make sure the scaffold is stable before anyone works from the platform. High atop an unfinished building, a worker stands near an open edge before a falling object unexpectedly strikes him, causing him to lose balance. Working near unprotected edges creates serious fall hazards. An unexpected impact or sudden movement can cause a worker to lose balance, particularly when no guardrail is available. Without a physical barrier or properly secured fall protection system, recovering from an unexpected shift can be extremely difficult. Planning the work area carefully and controlling nearby activities can help reduce the chance of a worker being exposed to an unexpected impact. Temporary guardrails, properly installed safety harnesses, and secure anchor points provide important protection around elevated work areas. In an open industrial yard, a worker watches a turning forklift before the sweeping rear counterweight unexpectedly moves into his path. Operating forklifts requires awareness of their turning radius and the movement of the rear counterweight. During a turn, the back section can swing outward beyond the forklift's main footprint, creating a hazardous area for nearby pedestrians. Workers who stand too close may not recognize how quickly the equipment's position changes. Clearly marked pedestrian boundaries, designated travel routes, and effective communication between operators and workers can significantly reduce these risks. Operators should also check their surroundings before turning and maintain appropriate separation from pedestrians throughout every maneuver. At an outdoor storage lot, a driver hoists a massive slab before the shifting load causes the heavy machine to become unstable and tilt forward. Lifting dense materials with an extended boom can significantly affect a machine's stability. When a suspended load moves forward or swings unexpectedly, its weight can shift beyond the equipment's safe operating range. This may reduce stability and cause the machine to tilt, particularly when the load is too heavy or extended too far. Operators should always understand rated load capacities, follow manufacturer guidelines, and keep loads within approved operating limits. Keep suspended materials within approved operating ranges and make sure the ground and surrounding area are suitable for the lifting operation. Beside a waterway trench, a man stands near a soil mound before a swinging metal arm unexpectedly releases a heavy load nearby. Standing beneath or close to suspended loads creates a serious overhead hazard. When heavy equipment moves soil above a work area, unexpected movement can cause material to fall or shift without warning. Wet soil is particularly difficult to control because its weight and consistency can change during handling. Workers should remain outside designated exclusion zones whenever excavation equipment is operating overhead. Clear communication between equipment operators and ground workers is essential for maintaining safe distances and coordinating movements. Inside an active warehouse corridor, a walking employee looks downward before a large transport machine approaches unexpectedly. Operating heavy industrial equipment near pedestrian lanes creates significant collision risks. Tall or improperly positioned cargo can obstruct an operator's forward visibility, making it harder to identify workers in the machine's path. Large transport equipment also requires adequate stopping distance and careful maneuvering, particularly in confined warehouse corridors. When visibility is limited, pedestrians may be difficult to detect until the equipment is already nearby. Separating walking routes from vehicle lanes, maintaining clear sight lines, and using designated traffic controls can significantly reduce these risks. At a modern storefront installation, workers carefully position a large glass panel overhead before the brittle material suddenly breaks apart. Handling large brittle glass panels overhead requires careful planning and appropriate lifting equipment. Uneven support or shifting loads can place unexpected stress on the material, increasing the likelihood of sudden breakage. Large glass sections may separate without obvious warning, allowing broken pieces to fall into the work area below. Lift large, fragile panels using secured mechanical suction devices and approved handling equipment. Across a sunlit residential yard, a man pushes a gas-powered grass cutter before a suspected fuel leak creates an unexpected fire hazard. Operating gas-powered equipment with damaged fuel lines can create serious fire risks. Leaking fuel or vapors may come into contact with hot engine components, increasing the possibility of ignition. Equipment should be inspected carefully before use, especially around fuel lines, connections, tanks, and other components that may develop leaks over time. If a strong fuel smell, visible leakage, or unusual engine behavior is noticed, the equipment should be switched off and kept away from ignition sources. Inspect fuel connections before starting equipment. Maintain machinery regularly. Keep leaking equipment away from ignition sources and follow proper safety procedures. To keep learning from these important workplace safety lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay aware, stay safe.